a.m. and the guy who was the only guy awake who was at the wheel, his name was Michael Girona. He was a Filipino guy, and he woke me up. He said, "Hey, Danny, come look at this." So we'd already heard lots of UFO tales from Captain Paul House. So I go with Michael to the wheelhouse, and he's like, "Look up there," and we're just south of the equator. There's nothing out there, but it's a starry night. But hovering, it looked like 400 yards above us was just this, I would say, like a rotating ball of lights. Green, red, kind of halogen colored lights, had a hue, and it was like rotating, like almost like blinking Christmas lights would, kind of in a rhythm, but basically just hovering. And that's all we could really see was the lights. Couldn't see really an outline of a structure. It was dark out, but we watched it and watched it and watched it. I mean, probably for 30 or 40 minutes. And and it didn't move. It looked like it was just hovering. From what we could tell, it's hard. Like for all we know, maybe it was 3 miles away, but it sure seemed like it was less than half a mile. It seemed pretty dang close. The lights were just bright and large, and we just couldn't make anything out beyond that. But the remarkable thing is that it was just holding its position, and we had the captain take a look at it, and he just shrugged his head and said, "Oh yeah, I see him all the time." And my initial thing was like, "Well, is it a weather balloon?" He's like, "No, a weather. You'd see movement in a weather balloon." And it looked too large to be a weather balloon. It would, unless it was like a hot air balloon sized balloon. But all we saw were the lights, and it was so remote. I mean, I think that the next body of water that we passed was a small French islands called Kiribati. So we weren't. I mean, we were thousands of miles from any type of Air Force base. You can see everything on the radar and also on the ship tracker to see where ships were. And I mean, we were in as remote of an area as you could possibly be on the planet Earth. And when you look at remote countries, all the South Pacific countries are all like the most remote. They're the farthest from another body of land. They're the farthest from a continent. And so we were out there. So it just, it wasn't like, I don't know, somebody's homemade aircraft off the coast or something. And it had to be, just to maintain its position and just the amount of electricity to put off the light that it did. So that so I would say that was my UFO sighting.
Was there any sound?
No sound. Nope. I mean, also we had we didn't cut the boat off. We had the engines going on the boat, which, so, if we were to cut it and it was silent, and there's still the, kind of the lapping of the ocean that you could hear. So no sound.
Was the boat moving?
Not really anything, just big. The boat was moving.
And so did it seem like it was moving with you, or was it stationary and you were moving with it?
No, I don't think so. No, we were moving towards it. And it, like I said, maintains position. Now, when we're on this boat, so we took this from the Columbia River all the way to that island. I feel like it was something like 35 days of traveling. And the reason it took so long is because we're not going very fast. We're just, depending on the current, we were between 6 and 8 knots. A knot is 1.2 miles an hour. So we were probably going 7 or 8 miles per hour. So it wasn't like seeing it like if you were, doing 70 on the highway or in an airplane. We were going pretty, almost out like a jogging speed, just cruising in the ocean, but nothing around but those lights. I wish I could have said that. I mean, I saw a lot of fish and a lot of big schools of fish. I would have loved to witness, a craft harvesting fish from the ocean.
Yeah.
Didn't.
But this one wasn't sucking fish up.
No, but on the tail end of a lot of UFO stories from a pretty wild character, about as wild of a dude you can meet. And like I said, he'd get to, when we were in port, this Captain Paul would get to drink in early afternoon, and pretty soon you're going to get some tales. So we'd heard a lot of them, and then there on his boat, we're looking at some type of UFO.
Right. I just love his response. Oh yeah, I say that all the time. Why'd you wake me up?
Yeah, and that was basically it. And we went to bed with it still up there. Like I was like, okay,
Wow.
well, I got to be up, on watch in an hour, so I'm gonna catch me, a little more sleep.
So yeah, that was going to be my
that would be
next
hard to
question. Did
do.
it just disappear? Or did it fly off? But it sounds like you guys watched it as long as you could and thought, all right, it hasn't killed us yet, so guess I'll go to bed.
Yeah, no, because and I got up like an hour later. It's still being pretty dark, and at that point, I think we'd had passed it. I don't remember, exactly how it went. It was, like I said, stationary for basically the whole time, and we watched it until we went to bed. So I guess it just kind of faded.
Listener George Winters has a good point. Why have I never seen a weather balloon? According to the government, they're everywhere. That's so true.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen one.
So Dane, I have to ask you, and we've talked to a lot of UFO people. The lights, would you describe them in your memory? Were they blinking, pulsating, or neither?
No, I would say, like, what's the word, like chasing?
Yeah, like you said, on the Christmas lights that go and come back.
Moving in a circular motion where, green to red to like halogen to green to red to halogen type thing. I mean, there was definitely movement in the lights.
Could you see a reflection in the water?
Couldn't see a reflection. That's, like it wasn't close. The lights weren't, I mean, they were obviously bright enough to see distinctly, but not close enough to where we, where we felt like it could illuminate the water or, illuminate us. And it could be also, maybe they're not that type of light, where it's casting a big projection, but prominent and clear.
One thing that's come to light, no pun intended, with a lot of recent revelations from the military is encounters with USOs, so unidentified submersible objects. We're speaking of adventurer Dane Beck. Dane, did your captain ever tell y'all about seeing the UFOs go into the water or come out of the water?
Well, that was where he saw them. Yeah, he would see them, submerge from the water. Surface and submerge in and out of the water. And even, like I said, when they'd surface and they'd hover over these big schools of tuna, he said almost like vacuum light or projector like would, pull thousands of fish. I don't know, I guess it'd be 20 to 50 feet, above the surface of the water. And these fish would just come straight up into the cargo area of the ship, and they would go back down.
Gourmand from Wildcrats needs that technology.
Yeah, and this is all.
You
all
wild rats
tales.
won't stop me from getting my gourmet dinner. That wasn't exactly a French accent, but when Dane first told me about this fish revelation with the UFOs, actually, I didn't know what to make of it until tonight. And tonight, I've had an epiphany. I think I can make some sense out of why they would be harvesting fish, as we discuss an article written this week in Mysterious Universe by Brent Swanser titled Bizarre Cases of Bigfoot and Portals to Other Dimensions, which basically lays out the case for Bigfoot being an interdimensional alien being, for Bigfoot being the one piloting the UFOs, if you just shift your focus here from there being tiny green or gray beings on this UFO over the water to the beef jerky Sasquatch dude, a whole herd of them now in the UFO, it kind of makes a lot of sense. They're sucking up a bunch of fish. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of lot of muscle on the Sasquatch. They eat a lot of protein.
They're pescatarians.